All right, guys, get quiet. Get quiet. We're getting started, folks. All right. Area and perimeter in terms of x could be a daily grade as soon as tomorrow. So be ready for it. How do you find area of a rectangle? Length times width. Area always involves multiplying. Length times width, side times side, base times height, radius times radius. It always involves multiplying. Therefore, on these questions, you will always change the exponents. This is multiplying powers of the same base right here. So to find area of this rectangle, you're going to have to do 6x to the fourth times 3x squared. So that's applying that rule of multiplying powers of the same base. The numbers get multiplied, and what do you do with the exponents? They get added. So on area, your exponents are going to change. What's the area of this guy? 18 x to the 6. 18 x to the 6. Now, perimeter. Perimeter involves adding like terms, and adding like terms never will change your exponents, ever. So when we find perimeter, we're really not doing an exponent law. We're just adding up the coefficients. We're adding like terms if there are any. Now, the length and the width, are they like terms? No. The best I can do with those is connect them with a plus sign. That's how I add them. I put a plus sign in between them. However, there's 4 sides here. So there's definitely going to be some like terms. These two have to get put together. What's a 6x to the fourth with another 6x to the fourth? 12x to the fourth. Again, the exponents never change when you're adding like terms. Plus, now I'm going to add the other two sides, the widths or the lengths or whatever you want to call them. 3x squared plus 3x squared is 6x squared. So that's my perimeter, and here's my area. Notice on area, exponents change. On perimeter, they never change. Are we good with rectangles? Okay, now a square. There's a couple of different ways you can think about the square. Area of a square, you can either do side times side, or you can take the side and square it. So you could think of it like this, 8x to the 9th squared, or you could think of it as 8x to the 9th times 8x to the 9th. And again, both of the exponent laws that we have learned are represented in those two problems. You pick the way that makes the most sense to you. And we're finding area here, which always involves multiplying. Radius times radius, side times side, length times width, base times height, some kind of multiplying. Both of these ways are going to give you the same answer. They're two different laws, but we arrive at the same answer. I usually do it this way. What's 8 times 8? 64. And x to the 9th times x to the 9th is x to the 18th. Because I'm counting up how many x's are being multiplied there. If you do it this way, same thing. What's 8 squared? Still gets 64, and the rule here is the exponents get multiplied, and 9 times 2 is x to the 18th. So that's the area of the square. On area, exponents should change from what you started with. Perimeter, different story. I'm doing 8x to the 9th plus 8x to the 9th plus 8x to the 9th plus 8x to the 9th. Or, what's a shorter way to do that? 4 times 8x to the 9th. Is this 4 going to affect my exponent? No, not at all. So what's the perimeter? 32 x to the 9th. Alright, what do kids forget on triangles? Dividing by 2. Area of a triangle is base times height with one extra step. Base times height divided by 2. Will dividing by 2 affect my exponents? No. Exponents only change when you multiply x's by x's or divide x's by x's, not when you multiply or divide by whole numbers. Okay, so what's the base and the height on this triangle? Right. Yeah, those two sides. The other side I need for perimeter, but not for area. Okay, so I'm going to do 5x squared times 12x squared, and I have to divide by 2 at the end. What's 5x squared times 12x squared? 60 x to the 4th. On area, your exponents should always change because I've got x times x here, times x here. That's 4 x's getting multiplied. Now, I still have to divide by 2. Again, the exponent's not affected when I divide by 2. 60x to the 4th divided by 2 is 30x to the 4th. So there's my area. Always label your answers as well. Perimeter, I add up all the sides. There is no special formula for perimeter of this triangle because they're all different sides. Are they like terms? Yeah, they're all x squareds. So we're going to have a big group of x squareds. How many x squareds will we have? Well, whatever 5 plus 12 plus 13 is. 5 plus 12 is 17. 17 plus 13 is 30. It just happened to be the same number we got for area, but 30 what? 30x squareds. Exactly. On perimeter, whatever exponents are in your problem, you should have that exact exponent in your answer. All right, and then we're back to a rectangle. But this rectangle is a little bit different. This rectangle, to find the area, you need to use yesterday's lesson. Because you are multiplying 7x to the 5th times all of that dimension. What property do you have to use here? The distributive property. So area, you're going to do 7x to the 5th times 4x to the 5th. 28 x to the 10th. And then you also have to do 7x to the 5th times 3x to the 4th. Positive 21 x to the 9th. That's my area. Perimeter is adding up all the sides. And there are like terms here. This is what somebody told me last period. And they were partially correct. They just didn't finish. They doubled each side. And they doubled it correctly. They told me that 7x to the 5th plus 7x to the 5th is 14x to the 5th. That's absolutely true. Plus, they doubled this side because there's another side up here that's just like it. And they got 8x to the 5th plus 6x to the 4th. And they stopped and patted themselves on the back. Why is that not quite done? Yeah, these are still like terms. Don't stop until you have simplified as much as you can. What's 14x to the 5th plus 8 more x to the 5th? Isn't it 22? Is it 22? 22x to the 5th plus 6x to the 4th. That's your final answer for perimeter. Now, I promised you a circle, and I will give you a circle. I didn't have room on the warm-up, but I want to make sure you know circles as well. It will be on your quiz, which could be as early as tomorrow. Here's a circle. You want me to give you radius or diameter? All right, we'll do a radius one. The radius of this circle is, I don't know, how about 4x to the 6th? 4x to the 6th. What now? The formula. Okay, now, again, they're not going to give you formulas for flat figures, so I do want you to start working towards remembering this. Area is always multiplying. Side times side, length times width, base times height. In this case, radius times radius. And the only difference is you got to stick a pi on the end of it. That's area. Now, for circumference, just to make things easier, I like to think of one formula for circumference, and it's just pi d. It's diameter with a pi on it. But you do need to work towards remembering those. They're not going to give you those on CBAs and such. You do get a formula chart, but it doesn't have area and perimeter of flat figures. And there could be one on there on the test, on the end of course exam as well. Your end of course exam's not until May. Yours is called the Algebra 1 End of Course Star Exam. Yep. Okay, area of this guy. What is it? 16x to the 12th pi. Okay, because I'm going to do 4x to the 6th times 4x to the 6th, radius times radius, and don't forget the pi. 4 times 4 is how we get 16. There are 6 x's here, and 6 more x's here. That makes a grand total of 12 x's. The other way you could think of this, if you like the other rule better, if you like to raise powers to powers more than you like to count up your x's, then that would be take the radius and square it. Well, what's 4 squared? 16. And x to the 6th squared, those get multiplied. You get x to the 12th. Don't forget the pi. So that's area. Circumference is pi times diameter, but I did not give you the diameter. I gave you the Radius. Super easy to find the diameter. What do? You don't square it. You double it. Or you add it to itself. You double it or add it to itself. So what's 4x to the 6th doubled? Oops, 4x to the 6th. And if I double that, I'm going to get 8x to the 6th. Doubling something doesn't affect the exponent. So now that I know the diameter, circumference is super easy. What is it? 8x to the 6th pi. All right, I want to do one more circle, except this time I'm not going to give you the radius. I'm going to give you the diameter. Shout out to Kenny? Yes, I can. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to my whole second period class. Okay, here is your diameter. It is, let's make it a nice even number, 12x to the 8th. 12x to the 8th. Now, if I give you the diameter, what job is super easy? Circumference is super easy. You pretty much know the circumference already. Just stick a pi on it. The area is a little bit more work, right? Again, area is radius times radius. Stick a pi on it. Circumference is pi times diameter, or diameter times pi. Yes. If you don't know the radius, you've got to find it. The radius is half of the diameter. Dividing by 2 will never affect an exponent. So what's the radius of this thing? 6x to the 8th. Now that I know the radius, I can hopefully correctly lead myself to the area. What's the area? 36x to the 16th pi. Because you're going to do 6x to the 8th times 6x to the 8th. 6 times 6 is how we get 36. Count up how many x's. There's 16 of them. The other thing you could have done is 6x to the 8th. The whole thing is getting squared. Same answer. 6 squared is still 36. And here when you multiply those exponents, you get x to the 16th. Don't forget the pi. All right, circumference. Nobody should miss circumference. 12x to the 8th pi. Diameter times pi. All right, so we have just gone through all situations that you might encounter as early as possibly tomorrow. I'm going to pause the recording while we grade homework, so get your homework out. It's very easy, I promise. All right, all we're doing today is finding the missing factors. So your homework is not going to take you very long at all. Finding the missing factor is your title. It's basically working backwards. It does sound like a game show, doesn't it? Yes. Come on down and spot the missing factor. Okay, basically you're trying to fill in the blank here. Yes, question. The bonuses were worth 3 points. All right, guys, look up here. Now, on your homework, I do want you to write the question. That's pretty much the hardest part about your homework. And then you tell me what goes in the blank or where the question mark is. So a to the 7th times some mystery factor equals a product of a to the 9th. Yeah, the missing mystery factor is a squared, because a to the 7th times a squared is how you would land at a to the 9th. Are you with me? What did we do with the exponents to find the answer? We subtracted them, because we're going backwards here. All right, blank or question mark times a equals a to the 5th. Now, this is what some kids do. Some kids will tell me 4 is the answer. But 4 times a is 4a. 4 times a is not a to the 5th. So be careful. I know what you mean here. You mean the exponent should be a 4. But what's the whole factor? A to the 4th is the missing factor. Because if you work backwards, a to the 4th times a is how we would get that product of a to the 5th. Are you with me? All right, now, number 3. Kicking it up a little bit. Just a little bit. 7 times some unknown factor became a negative 28. Negative 4. And then the a's went from a to the 5th to a to the 8th. Negative 4, a to the 3rd is the missing factor here. Are y'all okay with that? And if you're not sure, plug it back in and make sure it works. 7a to the 5th, I think the answer is negative 4a to the 3rd. Well, sure enough, 7 times negative 4 gives me negative 28. And a5 times a3 gives me a to the 8th, so that had to be the winner. It's kind of like you're dividing, and when you divide powers of the same base, you do subtract the exponents. Yes, we're working backwards here. All right, and then the last one on this page. Notice how I said on this page. Definitely a negative 7. Definitely need an a in there. And b squared. Negative 7ab squared has to go in the blank space here. Because 3 times negative 7 is how you get negative 21. A squared times a is a to the 3rd. And b to the 4th times b squared, if you add those up, you get b to the 6th. So do you all agree this is easy? All right, try these. Yes, I am recording again. Thank you for watching out for me. Yes. Kenny says hit that like button. Subscribe and comment. I better have more than 4 followers after today. I'm not really sure. I think it's under Chrissy Heim. Somebody else said that yesterday. No, yeah, in first period. Victoria was complaining about having to look up and down. It's because you got so much hair on the top of your head. What symbol would you prefer, Ashley? The reason why they don't want to use an X is because then it looks like negative 4a times x. So a square, negative 4a times blank square equals, like that. I put a question mark because that's what they have in the book, so there. Just never satisfied. Who erased? I'm going to write that back up there. How do you know? Maybe I did need it. Maybe I needed to look back on it for next year. You ever think about that? All right, what goes in the blank or the question mark or the box or however you want to write it for number 5? Negative 4a was the missing factor here. Because negative 4 times negative 4 is how we get a positive 16. And then a times a is how we would get a squared. Okay, how about number 6? Number 6 would be a positive 5x to the third y. This was the missing factor on number 6. Now, look carefully at number 7. I saw weird answers for number 7. It's not 0. It's 1. If you multiply by 0, what would your answer have been? 0. Multiplying by 1 doesn't affect your product at all. Well, if you have the exact same factor that you started with, then the only thing you could multiply by would be a 1. All right, and then the last one, number 8. Negative 7x y to the third. There were no y's in the original factor, but there was y to the third in the answer. That means the missing factor had to have y to the third in it. Okay, so your homework, which I'm going to give you almost the rest of the period. Some of you are going to meet me over to the side to work on yesterday's quiz. I want to talk about yesterday's quiz. But your homework for tonight is page 159. 160. You must write the questions 20 to 39. All of them. It's only 20 problems, guys. Guys, these go super fast. They're easy. I'm going to pick them up.